ሰላም ወዳችሁ ተማሪዎች እንደምን አላችሁ? እኔ ነኝ የ10ኛ ክፍል የፊዚክስ መምህራችሁ ከሉሲ ብሪጅ አካዳሚ። ዛሬ የምናየው ዩኒት 1 አራተኛውን ሴክሽን ያየነውን ሪቪው ኩዌስችን ይሆናል ማለት ነው። ይሄ የአራተኛው ኩዌስችን ሪቪው ኩዌስችን which is about graphical method of vector addition and subtraction. So የዚህን ሪቪው ኩዌስችን አብረን የምናየው ይሆናል ማለት ነው። ትምህርታችንን ከመቀጠላችን በፊት ግን እንደ ሁሉ ጊዜው የሉሲ ብሪጅ አካዳሚ ዌብሳይታችን lucybridgeacademy.com በመግባት የተለያዩ ሾርት ኖቶች፣ የጥያቄ ባንኮች እንዲሁም ከአምስት በላይ ቋንቋ መረዳት የሚችል የኤአይ መተግበሪያ ፕላትፎርምን ማግኘት ይችላሉ። በተጨማሪም የዩቲዩብ ቻናላችን ሰብስክራይብ እያደረጋችሁ እናም የቴሌግራም ቻናላችን ጆይን እያደረጋችሁ ወይም እየተቀላቀላችሁ ሐሳብ አስተያየታችሁን እንድትሰጡን ስንል እንጠይቃለን። እናመሰግናለን። አሁን ወደ ትምህርታችን የምንቀጥለው ታዲያ ከባለፈው ሴክሽን 1.4 ያስቀመጥነውን መሰረታዊ ሁለት ጥያቄዎች አብረን የምናየው ይሆናል ማለት ነው። Okay, so by having this, what are the basic questions what we discussed on that of the previous section, that is about graphical representation of what? Vector addition and how to add or subtract what? Vector graphically. So by having this, the first question is about what is the key difference between that of using that of the parallelogram and polygon method in that of vector addition. What is the key difference? The key difference in between that of the parallelogram and the polygon method for that of the vector addition is here in that of the parallelogram method. You have to know about in parallelogram method. In the parallelogram method, that's the vectors which start as what? At the same point. Two vectors which are starting from at the same point. And without the sum or the difference of the two, that we are having that of what? Having that of the direction, their direction. Then we have what? The diagonal of the two vector. That by making the parallelogram. At this case, the resultant vector a plus b has a magnitude of here a and b, which has a magnitude of under the root of a square plus b square plus 2ab cos theta. This is also called a cosine law. The parallelogram method, which uses what? Which uses the cosine law. We can determine how to find the cosine law. Okay? Okay? So in this case, let's see a basic point about how we can find or we can calculate the magnitude of the resultant two vectors having that of the parallelogram method, having that of the cosine law, that uses a Pythagoras theorem. That is obviously uses the Pythagoras theorem to have what? The cosine law. So by having this, let's see that here the vectors a and b, the vectors a and b. Then this transposes to what? These vectors were transposes to having that of the same point here. That they made what? A parallelogram. So by having this, the angle made here theta, then theta which has what? The same angle without of the alternate angle theorem, by alternate angle theorem, which has the same angle here theta, by just assuming that an addition of what? Side length is x, having that of a, and what? We have b, here b, then after what? Here, let's say this one is h. By having this, we can determine what? The parallelogram law, or what we call it is the cosine law. So by having this here, it makes what? Right angle triangle here. For that of this one, for this one, it makes right angle triangle. Here it makes right angle triangle. Okay. This is what we call it is here a plus b. The magnitude of a plus b. That we found the magnitude of a plus b having that of the right angle triangle theorem. The right angle triangle theorem, that is the same as what? Under the root of a plus x the whole square plus what? H square. This is the parallelogram law. By having this, we can determine the cosine law. By having this, we can determine the cosine law. The cosine law. In this case, here we know that from trigonometry, trig property, that we have what? H is equals to what? H is equals to the hypotenuse here for this side is what? B. B sine theta. B sine theta. Whereas x, which is the same as? B cos theta. Because the angle, this theta, transposes here. By having that of the alternate exterior angle theorem. For out of a given two parallel sides or for two parallel lines, when they were intersected by the same intersection line, then they make what? An alternate angle. Without in mathematics, then h is equals to what? B sine theta and x is equals to b cos theta. By substituting these values here we have what? Under the root of a square plus, by distributing this, a square plus 2ax plus x square plus what? H square under the root. Then when we put this, the value here, a square plus the values of x and h, then we have what? 2a x is what? B cos theta plus x square b cos theta the whole square plus h square, which is the same as what? A sine theta the whole square under root. Then here, for that of the trig identity, here sine square theta plus cos square theta, which result is what? 1. Which what we call it is trig identity. In your mathematics. With that of trig identity, we have what? Under the root of a square plus 2ab cos theta plus the sum of this only gives what? The sum of this only gives, so right here it is b sine square theta plus cos square theta. Here it is b square into sine square theta plus what? Cos square theta. Then this results what? 1, having that of this trig identity. So by having this, we have under the root of a square plus 2ab cos theta plus b square. This is what we call it is the parallelogram. Rearranging this, what we have what? A square plus b square plus 2ab cos theta. 2ab cos theta. This is what we call it is the parallelogram law. In that of the parallelogram law, that we use is what? Such kind of calculation. This is what we call it is what? The parallelogram law. Or what we call it is the cosine law. Whereas in that of the polygon law, in the polygon law, that simply we can have what? An addition of each head to tail. The addition of each side, wherever the sides were placed, then they're simply what? Joining head to tail. Then the gap between these three vectors, A, B, C, the gap between these three vectors, what we call it is a resultant. Here's the resultant, what we call it is A plus B plus C. Okay, A plus B plus C. So by having this, in that of the parallelogram law, that of the parallelogram law, and also the polygon law, which is different with that of what? Their addition or subtraction of these vectors. Addition or subtraction of these vectors. So by having this, we have what? A different method of addition on that of the parallelogram and the polygon law. The polygon law. What about the second question? The second question says, how do we calculate the resultant of two perpendicular vectors graphically and mathematically? Without of the two perpendicular vectors, here, for question number 2, for two perpendicular vectors, how we can calculate the resultant having that graphically, simply by using that of the polygon method, or by using that of the triangle method, having that of their gap. So if we have a perpendicular two vectors here, and this one, vector A and B. So by having this, they make what? Right angle triangle. By having this, we can also find using that of what? Using that of the triangle having their gap from the initial to the final of the second. Then this gap is what we call it is a resultant, which we call it is what? The vector sum of the two, which is A plus B. Okay, this is what we call it is the resultant having graphical method. Whereas using that of the mathematical method, we can use mathematical method having the Pythagoras theorem, or right angle triangle theorem. This right angle triangle theorem, which is c squared is equals to a square plus b square. In your mathematics, that we call it is what? C squared is equals to a square plus b square. This here the resultant which equals to what? Under the root of a square plus b square, for that of a given right angle triangle vector. Here it is a right angle, then A and B. So by having this, that makes the right angle, then this one is a hypotenuse. This side is a hypotenuse. So by having this, the resultant of the magnitude of this resultant, which we have what? Using that of the right angle triangle theorem. In this case, you can have what? R square, which equals to under the root of A square plus B square. So using this method, you can calculate different examples and calculations or problems. So for example here two vectors, A, which we have what? Which we have 6 units to north, and B, which you have 8 units to east. By having this, just like this, then the resultant of these two vectors, which we have under the root of a square plus b square, which result is under the root of 6 square plus what? 8 square. 6 square plus 8 square. Then the result is under the root of 36 plus 64, results 100. Under the root of 100, which we have what? The resultant of these two vectors, which we have 10 units. 10 units to the direction of what? Northeast. In such a way, you can calculate how to find what? The resultant of two vectors. When they are in perpendicular direction or at right angle triangle. So this is the basic and the dominant way of calculating a given vector. And we'll come up such kind of vector having that of the resolution of vectors. We'll see on the next video. So Now let's see today's section or today's lesson about the review question from that of 1.4 graphical method of what? Graphical method of vector addition subtraction. Vector addition and subtraction. In this case, we have two vectors A and B having the same magnitude of 5 units that we have that they started at the same point of origin here, at the same point of origin, at the same point here it is 5 units. To draw the values, just you can have a dimension like this, a dimension like this, a dimension like this. Let's say that here it is, how much? 5 units from the origin. Here it's to the what? The northeast, and B at the same magnitude, but they have what? In the southwest. So by having this 5 units, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 units here. 5 units to the north. 5 units to the north. Here. This one is 5 units to northeast. 5 units to the northeast. 5 units to the northeast. Whereas the other one is the same direction, opposite direction, but it is what? 5 units to southwest. Okay? Then the second one is what? 5 units to southwest. In this case, they are in opposite direction. Then by having this, the resultant of these two vectors, these two vectors. Let's say this one is A and this one is B. So by having this, the resultant of these two vectors, which equals to what? A plus B. But B is opposite direction with A. So in this case, which is the same as what? A plus minus A. B which results what? B which results opposite direction with B. A. The direction is opposite, but in magnitude is what? The same. So in this case, 5 units plus minus 5 units, which result is what? 0. This is why, because what? This is because that the resultant result is 0 because the two vectors are opposite in direction. The two vectors are opposite in direction. You have to think such things without what? Without such problems. So by having this, the question is, what is the magnitude? What would be the magnitude in the resultant vector? And also, why the magnitude results what? 0. Why it results 0? Because what? The two vectors are opposite in direction. That is a basic thing. So you have to think this thing. Let's continue the second question. That it says about if two vectors which have equal magnitude, what will be the maximum and minimum value? The minimum value for that of their sum. So by having this, let's see the solution. The solution for this two vectors. For that of these two vectors, that's the maximum value, the maximum resultant vector, which is found having that of what? A plus B. The maximum resultant vector, which is by having that of what? A plus B, which is maximum. Having that of equal magnitude, that A is the same as B, where A is the same as B. Then the resultant, which is maximum, which is equal to what? To A or to B. As an example, here, if the vector A which equals to 6 units, 6 unit. For that of this 6 unit vector, the other vector is the same, which is the same as what? B, which is the same as B. Then we have the resultant of 12 units. By having that of the justification or the definition that we have what? The maximum resultant vector, which is 2A. Whereas for that of the minimum vector R, which is equals to what? A plus minus B. Or which is the same as what? A plus minus A, because the two vectors are what? The two vectors are in equal magnitude, but they are opposite in direction. So this result is 0. This result is 0. Just the same way as the first that we did, that if A is equals to 6 units, then the resultant of what? The resultant of 6 units plus minus 6 units, which result is what? 0. That means adding of two opposites of equal magnitude vectors. Two opposites of equal magnitude vectors. So by having this, you can have what? You can have a maximum and minimum value of a given vectors. Again, maximum and minimum of a given vectors. So by having this, you can have a maximum or minimum vector. A maximum or minimum vector. Let's continue to the other question. So in this case, if three vectors have an equal magnitude, can their sum be 0? Here in our solution, with that of the vector which have three vectors with where they have an equal magnitude, their sum will be what? 0. Sum will be 0. Where we add them as a triangular vector, or using that with triangle method. Okay, where we add them as a triangular vector. We add them as a triangular or a triangle method. A triangle method. This is having that of what? The three vectors like this. Having different magnitude. Here, the magnitude having that of the length is A, B, C. Then by joining head to tail for this three vectors A, B, C, then the result is what? Having that of the triangle method or the simply polygon method, then we have what? The vector sum. At this point, the resultant will be what? 0. The sum of A plus B plus C. The sum of A plus B plus C, which result is what? 0. For that of the resultant. Which is equals to what? 0. Within that of what? The triangle method. This is what we call is what? The triangle method of vector addition. So there will be 0. And then the next question that says what? Consider 6 vectors that are what? Added tail to head. Then end up where they start from. What is the magnitude of the resultant vector? So by having this, let's say in our solution, let's say A such like this, B in this way, C in this way, D this way, E and F, which results like this. Then by joining this 6 vector having that of head to tail, and they finishes where the last vector F finishes. This is the last vector. finishes at the start of the first, at the start, or the vector A, then the resultant becomes 0. This is what we call it the polygon method of vector addition, where there is no gap within that of a given vectors were added together, and finishes or ends where they start becomes what? The resultant 0. The resultant of 0. So by having this, we join like this. We join like this. We join like this. We draw like this. Then here it is: A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, F here. The result is what? 0. That's the resultant of A plus B plus C plus D plus E plus F, which result is what? 0. Which result is 0. This is what we call it is what? The polygon method of vector addition, where the vectors starts and ends at the same point. The vector starts and ends at the same point. This is what we call it is the polygon method of vector addition. The polygon method of vector addition. And the other question is about vector C is 6 meter in the x direction. Here, the vector C is 6 meter in the x direction, in the x-axis. Here, for that of the axis that you draw like this, the x-axis and the y-axis. The x-axis and the y-axis, where the given vector is found here, that is an xy axis. Here, xy. Here it is. By having this, you can find what? How to draw a simple vector form. A simple vector form. So by having this, a vector C is in 6 meter in the x direction and D is 8 meter in the y direction. Use a parallelogram method to work out what? C plus D. The parallelogram method to work with the parallelogram method. So to do this here in our solution, 6 meter in the x direction, 6 meter in the x direction, and 8 meter in the y direction, 8 meter in the y direction. Then using that the parallelogram method that we use like this. Here we have the vector like this. That it looks like what? A rectangle. This rectangle is also called what? A parallelogram. So the diagonal here it is what? The parallelogram that we have A plus B, or simply that we have a vector, the vector that is given as C plus C and D, C plus D. The diagonal, this diagonal, C plus D, which is the same as what we call it is what? Under the root of C square plus D square plus 2CD cos theta. C plus D C plus C square plus D square plus 2CD cos theta. But the angle they form is 8 and 6, where C and D, that they form is at an angle of 90 degree, where theta is equals to what? 90 degree. When we put cos theta here, C plus D, the magnitude of C plus D, having that of the parallelogram method, that is the same as what? C square plus D square plus 2CD cos 90 degree. That result is what? 0. That result is 0. Then here it is the same as what? C square plus D square. Okay? C square plus D square. Having that of the parallelogram method. Which is converted to what? The Pythagoras theorem. So in such case that we have 6 square plus 8 square, which is the same as under the root of 36 plus what? 64. 36 plus 64. Then we have the magnitude of The magnitude of C plus D, which results under the root of 36 plus 64, which is 100. Then under the root of 100, which is equal to what? 10 units. 10 units. 10 units to the other what? The northeast. Here it is. Okay? 10 units at 45 degree. The direction which is found by having that of what? Tan inverse of here theta, which is result is tan inverse of the D over C. By having this, it results is 45 degree. It results 45 degree. In such a way, you can have what? You can have the parallelogram law that is converted to the Pythagoras theorem. This is what we have to do about what? The basic thing regarding that of the parallelogram law, and which is converted to what? The Pythagoras theorem. So in such case, that's the magnitude of C plus D, which result is what? Which result is 10 units in the direction of northeast at 45 degree. And here the 45 degree, which is the direction which is calculated by having that of what? Direction which is calculated by having that of theta, which is the same as tan inverse of the magnitude of C, the magnitude of D over C. The magnitude of D over C. Then result is tan inverse of 8 over 6, which results what? 45 degree. Which result is 45 degree. In such a way, you can have what? Such problems. And you can calculate such problems. So on the next video, we'll discuss about the section 1.5, which is vector resolution. እስከዛው ድረስ ግን እንደ ሁሉ ጊዜው የዩቲዩብ ቻናላችንን ሰብስክራይብ እያደረጋችሁ እና የቴሌግራም ቻናላችንን ጆይን እያደረጋችሁ ሐሳብ አስተያየታችሁን እንድትሰጡ ስንል እንጠይቃለን። እንዲሁም ዌብሳይታችን ይኸው ዝች ጋር ዌብሳይታችን አለች lucybridgeacademy.com ብላችሁ በመግባት አጫጭር ኖቶችን፣ የተለያዩ ጥያቄዎችን እንዲሁም ከ5 በላይ ቋንቋ መረዳት የሚችል የኤአይ መተግበሪያ ፕላትፎርምን ማግኘት ይችላሉ። እንደ ሁሉ ጊዜው የዩቲዩብ ቻናላችንን ሰብስክራይብ እያደረጋችሁ ሐሳብ አስተያየታችሁን እየሰጣችሁን እንዲሁም ቴሌግራም ቻናላችንን ጆይን እያደረጋችሁ በተጨማሪ ሐሳብ አስተያየታችሁን እየሰጣችሁ እንድትቆዩን ስንል እንጠይቃለን። እናመሰግናለን።